And here we go, out of the package, our Retro Wave Shocker figure, one that I needed for reasons I don't remember again, and one I'm pretty happy with. There's kind of one thing that's going to come along with this guy that I know a lot of folks are probably not the happiest with when it comes to his deco, but there's a lot to be just happy with in general, because this is a pretty solid figure. It's also a pinless figure, and I did not realize that during, pre-orders, promo images, all that stuff. I guess it just sort of slipped my mind, and it was a nice surprise to pull him out and realize that this is new stuff, and he's pinless, and it really helps this figure because not only is it aesthetically nice on its own, it would have absolutely jacked up his paint to have pins in these arms and legs, so that's kind of cool. He is pretty normal as far as articulation goes, but let's run through it. So we've got a head that can look up pretty far. He goes down, it's just a disc hinge, so it's a normal style head. We've got no tilt because of that. There is rotation. Arms go all the way out at the shoulder. They rotate all the way around. You've got your bicep swivel. Pinless, double jointed elbows again. He has big arms, so that it's not as mobile, but it's still, way more than 90 degrees. His hands are where he is limited, though, because of the apparatus on his wrist here. So he has a swiveling forearm, and that's it. Not too upset about that because, frankly, at the end of the day, he's probably just going to be doing something like this all the time, right? So he doesn't really need to hinge his hand for that, or his wrist, rather. Granted, there's probably going to be a few things you might want to do with him that he will be a little bit more difficult to do. But for the most part, I'm not too upset about that just because of what he is and how he works. We've got an ab crunch here, so he goes backwards really far, he goes forwards really far, and then you've got a waist twist. So again, kind of more normal Marvel Legends. You've got legs that go out about this far, not full splits, but good enough. Kick forward all the way, a little bit kick backwards. You do have your thigh cut up there. Double jointed, pinless knees. He does not go all the way back. Again, it's one of the limitations of his costume, so he's got those big boot cuffs there. They get in the way. And then you've got your boot cut shin swivel, but it's actually below the cuff, which I thought was pretty interesting. So it's below that cuff there, but he does have it, so it's kind of weird. And then you've got really good rocker and really nice hinges down at those ankles. So, pretty normal. The only thing that's truly exciting about this guy when it comes to articulation, and I'm not really saying that in a negative way, is that he's pinless, because not only is it very fluid in terms of moving him around, it also just makes him look better. And speaking of his look, I think he's pretty nice. The one thing that I think people are going to be a little bit, I don't know if upset is the right word, or maybe more annoyed, is that he doesn't have any lining in his suit. So all of these lines are sculpted, but there's no paint in them. Ideally, he probably should have a little bit of something in there. I'm considering maybe hitting it with like a gray Gundam marker or something like that, just to bring it out. Nothing that's super black or really, really dark, but something to more give it along the lines of like a shadow, if more than anything else. Because the light does hit it, and you can make out those lines just fine, but they are still a little faint. Is it the end of the world? Not necessarily, but it's one of those things that you would definitely like to have seen, just to bring out more depth and detail on his suit. Beyond that, I do think he looks really nice. I don't really have many issues to speak of when it comes to paint. All of this brown is mostly clean. I'm not going to say it's like ultra crisp or anything like that, because some of the line work is a little bit fuzzy, but for the most part, it's fine. It's where it needs to be, and I'm not really seeing any gloops or, splotches or anything like that anywhere. He looks relatively normal. The metallic for him, I absolutely love, though, because this stuff is super shiny, and it's really, really lighting up, especially under the lights I've got here, and it's all very consistent, very clean. The belt is not a free-floating piece. It's connected to the front of the waist. It does seem to want to sag a little bit, and it looks kind of wonky, so just, pop it back up. And then, of course, it goes with the waist. It's above the waist on the stomach area. But I do think he looks good. In a general sense, like right out of the box, I really wasn't upset about the lines. Will I actually ever do anything about it? 9 times out of 10, I never do anything about it, but I might for this guy. I don't know that he necessarily needs it, but at the same time, your mileage may vary on that as well. It's up to you whether you care that much about it. But I do think he will probably look better with some lines painted on there rather than him being super flat yellow all over. Speaking of yellow, the body is very, very consistent. That's one thing I always kind of look for, is to see if there's any difference in plastic from limb to limb to limb to limb to torso. And there's not on this guy until you get to the joints. And this is something that we've seen with other figures before, and it's got to be due to the type of plastic used, I'm assuming, and maybe how they're gang molding stuff, is that the joints for the elbows and the knees are not the same color as the legs and the arms. It's very, very close, and it might be impossible to pick up on camera right now, but I can definitely see it. They're fainter, and I'm not even really sure if that's the best way to describe it. They're slightly fainter yellow than the limbs themselves. It's not a huge thing. Like far away, I really can't pick it up, but when I get it closer, I can sort of see it. Again, it's not an end of the world thing, but it's also something to mention. And then, of course, lastly, we do have what I think is a pretty solid head sculpt. I have zero issues with the head sculpt. It's very nicely proportioned to the body. That stripe of brown is a sculpted piece on top of the head, and then you've got all of those kind of quilted lines that go through, which really add a little bit of the depth to them, even if they aren't painted. But it's always about pupilless eyes for me. That always does it. It makes somebody look a little bit more menacing, a little bit more mysterious in some ways. And those are very crisp, very clean. The white is super bright, and then just that little hint of black around the eyes does make them pop, and I think it separates them quite a bit more from what would have been a lot of yellow to kind of suck them in. So he does have a few things where I'd like to see some changes. You know, line work would have been nice to have some sort of faint wash in there or paint, and then those joints are definitely not the same color, but it's all very minimal. It's all very nitpicky stuff to me. I don't think any of that is truly stopping me from enjoying this figure, and overall, he's been a lot more fun than I really expected he was going to be. For accessories, Shocker doesn't have a lot, but he has a few quality accessories. Like, I like what he comes with. It's not a ton, but it works. So to start with, we do get some extra hands, and of course that means we get extra forearms. So, you know, these just pop off. You just sort of pull them off like that, and then you've got your hands, and they just peg back on. So you've got style pose hands. They're not exactly gripping hands, but they're capable of holding some stuff, I suppose. But you've got replacement hands, so they've got the bracers on them, and then he's just got his hands in a style pose rather than a fist. And then, of course, you know, in typical Legends fashion, what would an energy-using character be without these? So he gets a set of our long-running, bubbly sort of effect pieces in this sort of kind of like a light yellowy orange color. They work okay. I do think that these maybe aren't the best solution for him just because of the fact that he has really big fists, so they clip on fine, but I worry that they're going to sort of stretch the plastic over time, and maybe they won't be. But they do look okay. They actually kind of fit him in many ways in terms of how his power manifests. So while I'm not the biggest fan of these, you know, just because I have so many at this point, he's not a bad character to get him with. So overall, I really like this figure, and honestly, I like him a lot more than I thought I was going to. Again, it's nice to be able to get him because I didn't have one for whatever reason. I still don't remember why I never got him in the first place, but it's nice to have him, and I do like this look. I really like the way he's constructed. You know, it was a nice surprise that I guess I didn't realize that he was pinless to see that he was when I got him out of the box, so it makes him look a lot more seamless because his costume would have been negatively impacted by the pins in the knees and the arms. No doubt about it, they would have gone right through the brown paint he has, so it's a nice aesthetic choice for him. He comes with a solid array of accessories. It's not a lot, but I like what he has. And then overall, this is just a really nice looking Shocker. He could definitely use some lining in that costume for sure, but still, out of the box, I am very happy with this one. So that's going to do it for this look at the Marvel Legends Retro Spider-Man Wave 2 Shocker. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.